What happens when the perfect love story begins to unravel? When trust fades and the bond that once seemed unbreakable becomes fragile? Charlie and Clara's marriage was built on dreams and promises, but as subtle cracks appeared, the unthinkable happened. A betrayal that would change everything they once believed in. Charlie, 45, and Clara, 30, had the kind of love story that seemed straight out of a fairy tale. They met at a mutual friend's party and instantly felt a spark. Their chemistry was undeniable, a perfect blend of warmth, laughter, and shared dreams. Clara's energy and zest for life captivated Charlie from the start. He admired her passion, her creativity, and her adventurous spirit. With every passing day, Charlie felt more blessed to have Clara by his side. Together, they built a life filled with laughter, love, and aspirations of growing old together. For years, it felt like they were unstoppable, destined to face life's challenges hand in hand. As the years passed, small changes in Clara's behavior began to catch Charlie's attention. At first, he thought it was nothing, a busy work schedule, or just the natural ebb and flow of life. But soon these small signs grew harder to ignore. Clara, who used to respond quickly to texts, now took hours to reply. Her affectionate gestures, once constant, became less frequent. She seemed distant, lost in her thoughts, her attention drifting elsewhere. Charlie tried to brush it off, assuming she was just stressed or overwhelmed, but the tension in their home began to grow. Their once seamless connection now felt strained, and Charlie couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was amiss. He began questioning if he had done something wrong, or if Clara was just drifting away. Clara's behavior continued to change in ways Charlie couldn't explain. She started working late more frequently, often coming home exhausted, her mind seemingly elsewhere. Whenever Charlie tried to talk to her about her long hours, she brushed it off, saying it was just part of the job. But what made him uncomfortable was her increasing attachment to her phone. She'd take it everywhere, even to bed, and would quickly glance away when Charlie tried to see what she was doing. Her screen would always be locked, and when he asked her about it, she'd claim it was work-related or nothing important. Yet Charlie couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He noticed her responses becoming shorter, colder, as if she were pulling away emotionally. Despite his attempts to connect with her, the emotional distance between them only deepened, leaving Charlie confused and hurt. One evening, Charlie sent Clara a simple text, asking when she would be home. She replied, saying she'd be back soon, but hours passed without any word from her. Worried, Charlie called her, but the phone went straight to voicemail. Anxiety began to creep in. This wasn't like her. He tried to calm himself, but his concern only deepened as time passed. After several failed attempts to reach her, Charlie made a decision. He couldn't just sit at home wondering, so he drove to her office. As he pulled into the parking lot, he saw a strange car parked outside. A chill ran through him as he noticed the office lights were still on, far later than usual. His heart raced as he stepped out of his car, unsure of what he might find, but sensing that this was the moment everything could change. As Charlie approached the office, his stomach twisted with a mix of anxiety and dread. He hesitated at the door, but, unable to shake the feeling of something being terribly wrong, he pushed it open. What he saw hit him like a punch to the gut. There, in the dimly lit office, was Clara, laughing and talking closely with a young man, a co-worker, Charlie guessed. They seemed far too comfortable together, their proximity unnerving. Clara's hand rested on his shoulder, and they shared an easy rapport that felt foreign to Charlie. The scene felt surreal, like it was happening to someone else. His heart sank as he watched them. The young man, no older than 25, leaned in a little too close, and Clara smiled in a way she hadn't smiled in months. The sight twisted something deep inside Charlie. Hurt, anger, and confusion flooded his mind, but he tried to keep his composure. He didn't want to make a scene, but the reality of what he was witnessing settled over him like a dark cloud. This wasn't the woman he married. The Clara he knew would never act this way. The painful realization that his wife was betraying him hit like a wave. The moment Clara saw Charlie standing in the doorway, her face froze and a wave of panic washed over her. She immediately tried to explain, her voice trembling as she stammered out an apology. "Charlie, I can explain," she began, but her words were jumbled and unclear, only deepening Charlie's confusion. The young man quickly stood up, visibly uncomfortable, and rushed past Charlie, avoiding eye contact. But his departure did little to ease Charlie's mind. Clara's tear-filled eyes pleaded for understanding, but Charlie was no longer sure if he could believe her. She denied that anything inappropriate had happened between them, insisting that it was just work-related or innocent banter. But Charlie felt the betrayal burn inside him. Her apologies, though heartfelt, only added to his confusion. The trust that had once been the foundation of their relationship was shattered in that moment, and he knew things would never be the same. He wanted to ask more questions, to get answers, but everything seemed clouded by a sense of loss. Clara tried to justify her actions, her voice breaking as she explained how she had felt lonely in their marriage. She admitted to seeking attention from the young man because, in her eyes, Charlie had become emotionally distant. "You never notice me anymore," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "He made me feel seen, heard." Charlie stood there, stunned, caught between anger and the faintest glimmer of understanding. He wanted to believe her, that maybe this was a cry for help, but something felt off. The more she explained, the more it sounded like an excuse for her actions. The woman he thought he knew seemed so different now, and Charlie struggled with the growing realization that their love was not as perfect as he had once believed. The days that followed were filled with tension and confusion. Arguments erupted over small things, but the real issue was the growing mistrust. Charlie tried to forgive Clara, to give her a chance to prove that they could move past the betrayal. But with every glance, the image of her with another man haunted him. Her behavior only made things worse. She was erratic, apologizing one moment, and then pulling away the next. Charlie couldn't ignore the pain of her actions, and the emotional distance between them grew wider. He found himself questioning everything: their relationship, her feelings, his own worth. It felt like they were living in two different worlds, and no matter how hard he tried to bridge the gap, the divide only deepened. The love they had once shared now felt like a distant memory. After yet another heated argument, Charlie reached a breaking point. The emotional toll of the past few weeks weighed heavily on him, and he realized that he couldn't continue living with this constant uncertainty and pain. He couldn't keep trying to rebuild a relationship when the trust was completely gone. That night he sat Clara down and confronted her one last time. His voice was steady but firm as he told her, "I can't do this anymore. I can't keep living in a relationship built on lies and betrayal." Clara's face crumpled as she begged him to reconsider, but Charlie had made up his mind. He couldn't stay in a marriage where the foundation had crumbled beneath them. He told her to leave, and within days, he filed for divorce. It was the hardest decision he had ever made, but he knew it was the only way forward. In the months that followed, Charlie found himself lost in thought, reflecting on everything that had led to the breakup. He wondered if he had missed the signs, if he had ignored the small cracks in their relationship. He couldn't help but mourn the love he thought was perfect. As Clara moved on with her life, Charlie struggled to pick up the pieces of his own. The pain of betrayal lingered in his heart, leaving him questioning if he would ever trust anyone the way he had trusted her. He couldn't help but feel like the story of their love, so full of hope and promise, had ended in the most painful way possible. Betrayal changes a person in ways nothing else can. For Charlie, it shattered his belief in the permanence of love, and the scars it left would take time, perhaps a lifetime, to heal. As he worked through the aftermath, he couldn't help but wonder what had gone wrong and if he could ever trust again. Clara, too, had to face the consequences of her actions. Her relationship with Charlie was irrevocably broken, and the path forward was one of regret and self-reflection. They both moved in different directions, forever marked by the choices they made. In the end, their story was a painful reminder that even the most seemingly perfect love can unravel in an instant.